r/prorevenge. Be careful what you wish for. This is a mix of revenge and malicious compliance. Hopefully this is the right place. Background, kinda long, but also important. So I'm a happily divorced dad of 2 beautiful kids. A 5-year-old girl and almost 4-year-old son. My ex and I met in my home state of IL. She was a Navy brat, so her family is from TX. We fell in love very quickly, got married after a year, and was expecting my daughter after 3mo. We found out she was pregnant with my son almost 4 to 6mo after my daughter was born. A month after he was born I found out she was cheating on me with at least 5 guys. Later found out it was around 8. Obviously, I filed for divorce. I got the lawyer, changed my banking accounts, and presented her with papers. The first copy was rejected for a reason I can't quite remember. Upon revision, I had my lawyer also change the custody from me having the kids every other weekend to every single weekend. Much to his surprise she signed it. We shared the kids accordingly. She was super pissed, but there was nothing she could do about it. And when I could no longer afford to live in the state, she moved back to TX. Fast forward 2 years without seeing the kids. Couldn't afford to see them, except on one Christmas. I got out of the Navy, moved back home, and I got the kids for 3 months. I was appalled by their development delays. Both kids were rated in the bottom 5% of kids their age. My daughter didn't have a clue about potty training at 3, barely speaking, and had no awareness of adult authority. My son was not even close to walking, non-verbal, wouldn't eat most meats, and was afraid of grass. When I returned them my daughter would listen to adults, was potty trained, and speaking in almost complete sentences. My son was walking, saying some words/hand signals, and eating a variety of different foods. I worked my ass off to get them there. Also spent a lot on 2 times a week therapy for both of the kiddos. Money well spent. Anyways I stayed in IL for about 1.5-2 years gathering up enough money to move to TX. I had a little amount saved, but I started dating a girl who I came to find out was also wanting to move to TX. So we pulled our money together and moved down. Almost done with background guys. We got down to TX and lived out of hotels for around a month. Found jobs, found a place and moved in. I work in a sales position in a large bulk type store and my GF works at a sandwich place. At this time my ex and I are not going by the divorce decree custody days because of convenience. Well, a person ended up quitting the job and I had to take their hours. So my GF got permission to bring my kids to her work. The GM loves them. Well, they were being toddlers, and she texted a mutual friend of my ex and me asking if she could watch the kids for a few hours. That got sent to my ex. My ex and new hubby got pissed, and they came to my work and chewed me out saying that I need to take the kids' well-being more seriously. Roger that, duckers. Now I realize I messed up that day. I was not mad at what they said. I was pissed at the fact they did that in front of my trainee, a customer, and coworkers. Malicious compliance/revenge. During my setup phase I was not paying my full child support, which was kind of them, but that ended because I was now taking things more seriously. The next morning I talked to my boss, told him what happened and informed him that I could not work at the time specified on my divorce decree because now that I'm taking things seriously, I will now have the kids every weekend. I then transferred my ex the remainder of child support, informed her that she was right and I needed to take things more seriously, so I will be by after work to pick the kids up after work for my court-appointed custody. She was confused but agreed. Then I called her on Friday evening to see if she has everything prepared for the weekend stay, medications for my son. She flipped out saying they have plans all day Saturday and church Sunday morning. She screamed, "WTF are you making these demands all of a sudden?" Well, I'm just taking the kids and our agreements more seriously. I ended up letting them have the kids Saturday and pick them up Sunday morning. I then informed my ex and hubby that we would need at least a week's notice for any change in plans on weekends in case we had things planned. Generally if they wanted to do something special with kids. If we didn't have plans, even at last minute, Since I was taking things more seriously, my GF and I kept very meticulous records of any injury, diaper rash on my daughter from not wiping correctly, and physical appearance upon pickup. We would treat said rashes, note any changes in our little black book, then take a photo of the pages with a timestamp. When they returned, we would then note any worsening of any rash, injury, or non-treatment. We also signed the kids up for more therapy, since they are still very much behind. This went on for a few months until, surprise, my ex had enough and brought me to court to force the changes she wanted. I presented the judge with everything. The doctor's notes I had from day one, the doctor's notes from my ex with conflicting information. These notes were things she would tell the state-funded therapist for my son, as well as all the expenses for the therapies I was giving my kids. Then I showed her our notes, the printed time-stamped photos, and the many times any rashes would be present or worse when we got the kids. My ex broke down into tears, since she brought her entire family and several friends for support. The increase in child support she wanted was shot down, and instead was almost halved, since I was making less than I was prior. The expenses I had for the kids, and my overall time with the kiddos. The change in custody she so desperately wanted, well, the judge ordered it to stay the same with the change of alternating Sundays. Slightly annoying. Walking out, she asked me through tears, "How could you do this to me?" To which I replied I was taking things with the kids seriously. Edit. I have never restricted my ex from the kids. If she wants to have them for whatever reason, and I have no plans, I'll let her have them on my time. Edit 2. Yes, they are my kids. I don't a paternity test. Even if they weren't, I would have claimed them as my own. The love I had for them even before birth is above everything else in this world. Edit 3. For all you duckers who are saying I neglected my kids boo not seeing them for 2 years, I was in the Navy. I tried to see them, but my leave kept getting denied because of my medical BS. I FaceTimes with them every day. I requested to say goodnight to them whenever I was able to. If you have never been in the military, it is hard to understand how hard it is to get leave. Edit 4. I didn't relocate immediately to where the kids were because of the 24k marital debt I was paying off. I was paying roughly $700 to that per month. I will take responsibility for 10k of the spending. Once I had enough to survive 2 months W/O work, I moved down. That way I knew I could take care of my kids and TX. The time I was IL, I was living with my parents. r/prorevenge. Noisy neighbor gets silenced. Back in the 80s, I lived in a flat in southeast London. The flat was located in a small tower block 10 stories high with 4 flats per floor, one per corner as it were. The flat overlooked a local park and afforded very nice views of the area. The neighbors were generally very amenable, but everybody tended to keep to themselves, so no one had any problems with anyone. That all changed when a new family moved into a flat down on the 2nd floor on the same corner of the building where we lived. We lived on the 8th. They were not the most gracious of individuals, frequently leaving rubbish bags strewn around their floor's lobby for days, rather than depositing them in the communal bins, and parking their cars in other residents' allocated parking spots. In other words, the epitome of the appellati on chav. Complaints to the local council invariably fell on deaf ears. They soon developed a reputation for hosting loud drunken parties at the weekends which tended to go past midnight. This was pretty fecking annoying for us and the other residents, but we were somewhat less affected due to the distance between our respective flats. One particular Friday evening, however, proved to be the straw that broke the camel's back. At around 10 PM we heard the music start up, but it now appeared that the hosts had recently purchased a new sound system because the bass was now intolerably loud. I can only surmise that a peculiarity of the building's design, coupled with what sounded like much larger bass speakers, appeared to magnify the effect in our bedroom to the point where it made it quite impossible to sleep. At about 11:30 PM, I trotted downstairs and knocked on their door. It was flung open by what I could only assume to have been the male resident, looking somewhat the worse for wear. I politely asked him if he'd mind turning the music down as it was very loud, rattling the furniture in my flat and making it difficult to sleep. Duck off. Charming, I though. So I go back upstairs and call the non-emergency police number and explained the situation. They assured me that someone would be around in due course, being a Friday night. I reckoned it might take an hour or two. So, with much wailing and gnashing of teeth, we sat there waiting for the cops to rock up. Sure enough, about an hour later, I saw a patrol car pull up and a couple of London's finest enter our building. A few moments later, the music gets turned down and the police leave. No sooner had the car disappeared up the street than the music went back up to its previous level. We endure it for another half hour, no change, so once again I call the cops. This time it takes closer to 2 hours for them to turn up. Yep, definitely a busy Friday night. They finally arrive around 3 AM and once again the music is reduced to a sensible level. Unfortunately, shortly after they depart, back up goes the volume to its previous furniture shaking intensity. As you might imagine, by now I was royally pissed off. Indoors too, someone not normally prone to displays of anger was positively foaming at the mouth and looked like she was single-handedly going to reenact the Battle of Austerlitz in glorious technicolor, together with full orchestral accompaniment. It was then that I had a dazzling idea, one so fiendishly cunning and yet devilishly simple, a guaranteed cast iron, 100% pure, 24 karat stonker of an idea so brilliant that I felt certain that within a few minutes I could stop this once and for all and execute my plan in such a way as to make it impossible to trace back to me. Grabbing my toolkit, I crept down the stairwell to the second floor just to double check the actual flat number. Having confirmed the number, I went back up to the 4th floor. In the stairwell just next to the exit door to the 4th floor lobby was a wooden access door that concealed one of the 2 electrical distribution panels for the entire building. The door was only secured by dint of a simple square key fitting, and the application of a large flat blade screwdriver would pop the latch no problem. Thus I opened the door to reveal the distro itself. Pulling the cover open, I was presented with a large panel containing 20 large 80 amp fuses, one each for the lower set of flats. Each one was neatly labeled with the flat's number and toss, but a moment to locate the appropriate one. Now, by one of those happy coincidences that usually only occur in the more egregious examples of the Hollywood B-movie, I just happened to have in my toolkit a dead fuse of exactly the same type and capacity. A few weeks previously I'd had to replace a similar fuse in the theater where I worked, and I'd tossed the dead fuse in my toolbox where I'd promptly forgotten about it until now. Now, with all my ducks in a neat row, I pulled the fuse carrier for the miscreants flat out. Instant. Blessed. Silence. I rapidly swapped the live fuse for the dead one and reinserted the carrier. Securing everything back up again, I casually strolled back upstairs to enjoy a few hours in the hallowed arms of Morpheus. Addendum. Some weeks later, the troublesome family were moved out of their flat. It transpired that the local council had received so many noise complaints over the previous 6 months that they were obliged to rehouse them elsewhere. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more.